Okay, so the Igros Moshe asked the Pasha the Kasha on the Gemara that we left off yesterday with, which is that, which is if it's usher to do, we said, yeah, oh, if you don't have a choice, so then you're allowed to go. I mean, if it's usher, it's usher. Right? How are you allowed to go there? We're saying, oh, you have business, so therefore you're allowed to go there and see priestess. Right? How's that allowed? So, Ramosha basically answers because it itself, the problem with seeing priestess is that it itself leads to it leads to something else. If you don't know definitively that it's going to lead to something else, so therefore you can't tell the person that it's us, right? But if it would taka be arayas or something along those lines, and you would vade be over on the main issa, then it's a problem. He discusses like, is it if it's considered arayas to look at pritzas, so then is it yarag val yavar? Because if it's considered like arayas, so then we know arayas, a bizrayat arayas, you have to die in order before you're over. So he says that can't be. So the pshat is that the reason why you don't die is because you don't have to die is because it itself. The reason why you can't look at ervos not because it itself is also an isser, but the isser of arayas it may lead to an isser of arayas, but it by itself is not an isser arayas by the definition of arayas. Okay, I hope that's clear. All right, so Zokti Gemara, we're on Nun Zainam Beis. Fine. Ba'mine Rabbi Yochanan, about 12 lines up from the bottom, Nun Zainam Beis. So it's a Agadata for the most part for Amid Aleph and part of Amid Beis, and then we get back into regular Gemara, and then Shabbos is daf again is Agadata. So Ba'mine Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Beno. And because we mentioned Rabbi Beno, that's why we continue saying all sorts of agadatas from him. So, how long should a Talmud Chacham's jacket be? So, my answer is Kol she'ein basarei nira metachtav. If his basar, you can't see his basar from under. Back then they wore. It doesn't mean jacket. It means they wore robes. So it's his robe has to be long enough that you have to see. You don't see his skin. All right. The Rashbam says that you shouldn't even see his feet. Yeah. So, and that's probably where rabbinic garb. That's part of where rabbinic garb is supposed to be longer than others.
Luckily, we wear shoes nowadays.
What?
Luckily, we wear shoes, so you're not gonna see it anyway.
Oh, you got the longer zakins. You got the longer zakin, the long socks. So it doesn't have your coat doesn't have to be so long. Especially
I don't know if this is because to see the feet, or I'm not sure exactly. Right? I'm not because maybe it's just the length of the beged. Yeah. Anyways, so let's see.
How do we know it's not also talking about the sleeves covering up his fingers?
It doesn't say. It doesn't say. It just says the chaluk. How long does it be?
Yeah.
Okay. Then it continues. Talis shel tamach. How about a talis? Ketzad. Kol shein chaluk nira mitachtov tefach. That the chaluk doesn't look. You don't see it. You don't see this robe that they wore. You should only see a tefach of it under his talis. So the robe you shouldn't see. It should be long enough you don't see his feet, and the talis should be that you only see a tefach's worth of his robe. Yeah. Okay, because I guess that's considered a chashivas. Yeah. Shulchan shel Talmud Chacham. What does the table of a Talmud Chacham look like? Ketzad. Shnei shlishi gedil. 2/3 of it has a gedil, like a tablecloth. Ushlish galoi, and a third is revealed. I mean, it doesn't have a tablecloth. I love ka'aris v'yarak, and on that, the part that's not covered, there's dishes and vegetables. Right? Meaning they sat on one side, and the other side they had the food. And the ring, so the tables had rings, because they would hang up the table. They didn't have room in their houses, so they would hang up the ring. They would take the ring and hang the table up from the roof, right? Yeah. So that ring was on the outside, meaning not on the side that the people are eating, because that ring would be a problem. But we said that you put the ring on the inside of the table, like kasha. So the Gemara gives a few tirutzim. One is talking about where there's a kid, right? So when there's a kid, there you put on the outside part of the table where people don't walk, so that the kid won't end up shaking the table. And hadulaka yanuka, one is talking about where there's no kid. So when there's no kids, so you put it on the inside where the people don't walk, right? Meaning, if you put it on the side where people sit, so then the kid is going to play with it. So you have to put it on the other side, even though the people walking, like the waiters, are going to get ruined from it. Whatever, not ruined, they're going to hit the table with it. And then you have the other way. But if you have a kid, then but if you don't have a kid, then you put it where people sit.
You're not hanging the kid up from the hook.
Maybe if he messes with the table a little bit, then maybe.
That's
This is the Yitzchak, you know.
That's why it's outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, weiter. So by saying there's no yanuka. One is talking about where there's a shamish, and one is where there's no shamish. If there's a shamish, so you got to make sure he doesn't get hit there, but otherwise not. One is at least there's a shamish like kasha. One is talking about during the day, and one is talking about at night. Right? So during the day he could see it, so he'll make sure he doesn't hit it. And the other one is at night where it's where he might get hit with it. So therefore we stay away. Fine. So that's the way a Talmud Chacham's table looks like. Meaning that a tablecloth on 3/4 of it, and the other quarter, a third, or what did you say? No, 2/3 tablecloth, 1/3 not, and then the ring is either on the inside or outside, depending on the situation. Fine. V'shal Amoritz, and the Amoritz is table doima on Talmud Aleph now. Doima lemadura ukederes makiva, so it's compared like a fire, right? And the pots surround it, right? Meaning it's just hefker, basically, is what the Gemara said. Yeah. So the Gemara says, "Mitashal tamid chachamim keitzad." What does a bed of a Talmud Chacham look like? Kol shein tachtea ela sandalim b'masachama, only sandals during the summer, umenalim b'masachshamim, and shoes during the rain. V'shalam aretz daimel la'itzer, the itzer balus, and amoretz, it's like just a storage room that's messed up, like not hefker. What am I looking for? It's disorganized.
This is where we get that a Talmud Chacham has to look regal.
Yes. This Gemara certainly is one of the sources that a Talmud Chacham has to look.
Really, Gemara in Shabbos that if you find the Talmud Chacham has dirt on his clothing, he's mevad.
Right, and he's not allowed to daven. Yeah, but there's another big thing you get from this, that you see that the Talmud Chacham doesn't have food under his bed.
Yeah, that's what Rashbam points out. The Amoritz does.
Correct. So
you probably get a million shilas in camp about this, no?
Yes, I do. Right, the food under the bed. Right.
Yeah.
So this Gemara, yes, I get it all the year, but in the summer for sure. So you see, from this Gemara, is Masher, the Talmud Chacham will not store food under his bed, just his shoes.
You get it all year?
Yeah. You got guys in dormitories and stuff like that. I left food under the bed. I slept on my food, or I slept on medicine, or the baby slept on the couch. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff under the plane. Yeah.
All these people will tell me to come in and asking this shaila.
No, they're just scared.
They know it's like the Rashbam quotes the Gemara in Pesachim. It says Ruach Ra is Shayra.
Yeah.
You gotta
The
be careful.
Ruach was sure on the shoes too, boy. But maybe the Ramar put his shoes underneath
Only
the
you
bed.
are
He doesn't
eating your
have shoes.
shoes. No one else
What?
is eating their shoes. Only you.
No, there are. Yeah, some want to say that you shouldn't keep anything. A bunk bed. That's another shaila. Bunk bed in camp. You have a kid on the top bunk. So how do you have a kid under him? All right.
Oh. Wow, I'm surprised none of the rabbis who go to the prisons have that shiloh. You know, the bunks in the
Right.
prisons. I thought they have much of a choice, you know.
Yeah. But anyways, but this is not the source, right? The Gemara is really in Psachim, but this is just Mashma. The Talmud Chacham doesn't have this issue, right? Okay, fine. Fight. Now we get into some wild stories over here. Rabbanah Havakam Mitzayin Marasa. Rabbanah, he was a tzaddik, so he was being Mitzayin Ma'aras. Ma'aras meaning like Ma'aras Machpelah, caves where they had bodies buried. So his avodah, I guess one of his avodas, was to how do you say it? To mark them off so that Kohanim wouldn't go there and Tumah and Tara. So Kimatul.
Yeah, you see the Rashbam on that?
What I mean?
He says that only tzaddikim and very chashuv people should be going into kivrei tzaddikim.
Oh, so yeah, so they're right. So then, yeah. Oh, that's what you're talking about. Yeah. So, yes.
Just saying, all these geschmack trips to kivrei tzaddikim.
Yeah. If you look to the right to the right in the Gemara, a little 2-3 lines down in the Rashi, in the Rashbam. I'm sorry. So he says, Adam Gadol v'chashuv hayu lefikach mitan lo reshus likanas b'kivrei tzaddikim. It's not necessarily a raya, Akiva, because it's going into the ma'ara. It's not like just going to daven near it, right? Aval achar loy kedamrinan gedolim tzadikim b'misas and yosim v'chayein v'yinichnas b'rab. This is also a source to daven by the graves, right? Anyways, this is part of the whole sugya. This Rashbam is an important part of whether you go from here. It's clearly mashma that there is yeah. But anyway. So Kimatel and Marasa da Avram, when he got to Marasa Machpelah, what we call Marasa Machpelah, right? So Ashkel Eliezer Rebbe Avram, he found Eliezer Rebbe Avram the Koi Kamei Bava. He was standing in front of the door. Amrulay Maika Ovid Avram. What is Avram doing? All right. Meaning because the L'chaira, he was, why didn't he let him in? Must be Avram Avinu was doing something. Amrulay, he said, I don't know what this means. Gani beknafa de Sarah v'kamayana lebereshe. He's laying in the arms of Sarah, and she's looking at his head. All right. Now, Amrulay. So okay, let's just see a little bit, and then we'll go back. Amrulay zil ima emale banakoy abava. Tell him that Bana's by the door. Amrulay Leil. So Avram said, let him come in. Made the idea the Yetzer b'haya Amalekah, because we know that there's no Yetzer hara in the upper world. So we're not afraid that he's going to see me laying in my wife's arms and she's checking out my head. So therefore, and then it's going to cause him desire, so he could come in. Yeah. So Ayin Benofik, he went up and he looked into it and then he left.
Are we talking about Malachim? They're Malach? No.
I don't know what to tell you.
Where does it say anything about Malachim?
What?
Allah's
Eliezer Rebbe Avram was standing there. This is 1,000 years later.
It's impossible to understand.
Where does he live?
Outside, the Maris Machpelah, outside by the gate. You never saw him there?
Anyways, I get this. The Ben Yoda has a whole shot in this, exactly how this works.
A Lamaisa from this is the Nemuki Yosef about it's Yaakov Yisah about walking in public.
Oh, so 1 second. Yeah. So now, so we have to discuss that right now. What the example of Chiba Berabim that's used in Shulchan Aruch is that a man cannot, a woman cannot delouse. I don't remember which way it works, but it doesn't make a difference which way. But he cannot delouse the spouse's hair.
Right, but
In
the source
public.
is from this Gemara, because Avram said in this world there's no Yitzhahara, but it's mashma in where we live, then the derech eretz is not to show derech chiba in public.
Right. No, right. So that's, yeah, but this is A, that this is something called chiba. B is that you're not supposed to show chiba b'ram. Now
Right,
this is
right.
halacha. Right, and this is halacha in Shulchan Aruch.
Right, the
That
Ramah brings down this Nimuka Yosef. So, for example, walking in the street to hold your wife's hand or something. So that's not us,
Well,
but derech eretz, whatever.
Why
Well, it
isn't
is-
it also?
It is also. Shulchan Aruch says it's also.
Right.
No, it says us, or it says it's derech eretz not to do it.
No, I think the Lashon Shulchan Aruch said it's also. I don't
Yeah?
remember.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I
I didn't look it
remember.
up. Look it up. And was it Chaf Aleph? Yardei Chaf Aleph?
Yeah. I'm not gonna look it up right now.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't remember if we use the Lashon Aser, but yeah, this is the source for it. And then the question is, I mean, Ben, if you want to go that you want to take that further, so then even walking with your wife in the street could be considered chiba. If you're from those circles that you don't walk with a woman in the street, then you can't walk with. You can't.
Walking next to her is usher.
If you're from, like, there are a lot of Hasidim that do not walk next to their wives in the street, because that's not, you don't normally walk with a woman in the street. So by you walking with a woman, so then that's chiba. I don't know if that's the lumdus, but there are many yes, there are many, I don't want to say many, whatever, there are plenty of Hasidim who will not
Why
walk
should you
with
be
their
allowed
wives
to
in the street.
drive also at that point? Why only walking? Why not driving?
They don't drive either. Of course they don't drive.
Who says they do?
The
Who
wives-
says they
No,
do?
no, driving together.
They don't. Akiva, I've seen Hasidim where the wife sits in the back.
They say that's far enough. They have a mechitza.
What
I'm
should I
just
tell
making
you?
sure.
It's-
I don't want.
What are you
know,
making? What do you want? Oh, wait, stop. Okay, what are you making fun?
He's not
Stop.
making fun.
I'm
He's
just
he doesn't
pointing out
understand it.
why not take it to the nth degree? I'm
They
asking.
would they take
We're not
it
making
further
fun,
than
I'm
we
asking.
do. So what's
I'm
wrong?
not
They're
taking
also
fun.
making like calling it a dusel.
One of us, we put up in my car. We put up a Tzoros Pesach.
First of all, Zev, we learned in the Gemara that extremism when it comes to this stuff is not so simple either. Are you allowed to shave somebody's head? The Gemara's mashma not that way.
I didn't tell. I didn't. There's
I'm
no.
just saying there are extremisms,
Nobody
and it's not so
should-
simple.
It's not simple, but nobody should. Your person should respect somebody else's chumras just because you don't hold them.
Should we
Okay, but
respect
that's not
extremism though?
He's not. Yeah.
Gary already unofficially recanted on it.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying it's not so simple to respect extremism. Well, why should we respect it if it's
Why
not
is it-
extremism?
Why is it extremism?
You want to go into the detail?
Because
Like,
98% of Klal Yisrael don't. Yeah.
The Ramaz Lashon is Yesh Ermim Ein Linhoig Afilu Im Ishtay. That sounds more like Aser, yeah.
Ein linoig. Oh, that's the lashon. Ein linoig.
Ein Linhoig Afilu Im Ishtay Shechir, but the Beis Shmuel seems to understand it as being Aser.
Okay. Ein linoig.
Ein
Okay.
Linhoig. I guess however you want to interpret it.
Where is it? What simon is that?
It's Siman Chaf Aleph, the Ramah at the end of Halacha Hey.
Fine.
Yeah, talking about all these things you could do.
Yeah.
Private. Yeah.
Anyways. Okay, whatever it is, but that's the interesting thing, and we learn that from Avram and Sarah in Maras HaMachpelah. Whatever that.
So, you know, the one thing we could take from this Gemara, we could take something, you know.
yeah, that's for sure. So anyway, so Kimata, so now that was by Avram Avinu. Kimata Marasa the Adam Rishon, when he got to the cave of Adam Rishon, Yotz the Baskel of Armor, the Baskel came out and said, Nistak the Kelis with the Mus. Diukni, you looked at the Mus, Diukni, you already looked at my face, but Diukni Atzma al Tisago, so don't look at me myself. Meaning you already looked at Yaakov Avinu, which is not part of the story. So Yaakov looked like Adam, fine. So don't look at me. But so he said, but I gotta come into your caver, into your grave, because I need to be able to mark it off. So he said, it's the same way the outer one is, so is the inner one, meaning we're all the same size. Okay, and the one that says, right, when you go to the tours of Maras, they talk about this the machlokes, if they're on top of each other, on the side of each other, right? So it's two houses, one on top of the other. Midas Elyona, Kaf Midas Avlatainos, and then that's pretty pashut. The top one is the same measurement as the bottom one. Okay, then another thing. I looked at the two akev, the heels of Adam. The daim l'shnei galgalei chama. They look like two circles of the sun. That was the shine. All right, fine. Hakol b'fnei Sarah. Anything in front of the in front of Sarah is k'koif b'fnei Adam, is like a monkey in front of a person. Sarah b'fnei Chava, and Sarah in front of Chava, k'koif b'fnei Adam, is like a monkey in front of a person. Chava b'fnei Adam, k'koif b'fnei Adam, meaning where each one is subsequently more beautiful than the next. And Adam b'fnei Shechina, k'koif b'fnei Adam, and Adam in front of the Shechina is like a monkey in front of Adam. Okay, Shufrei the Rav Kahana, the form or the shop here from good beauty of Kahana, right? Mein Shufri de Rabavo is like Rabavo. Shufri de Rabavo, mein Shufri de Yaakov Avinu. Shufri de Yaakov Avinu, mein Shufri de Adam Arishan. It's like Adam Arishan. Ahu am
What's up,
Gusha.
Yochanan, and all this?
Right, because Rav Yochanan was also
Yeah,
supposed to be
curious
pretty.
that right. They skipped
Gemara
over.
asked
Like
that.
Rabbi Yochanan was
We had
even-
that Gemara. We had the Gemara that asked that from this
Oh,
Gemara.
yeah?
The Gemara asked on Rabbi Yochanan, and the Gemara answered because
Oh,
Rabbi
because he
Yochanan
doesn't have
didn't
a
have
beard.
a beard. Yeah.
Oh, right. Where was that Gemara?
See, the
It was a
Gemara
few
is
months
asking from
ago.
this Gemara.
The beginning of Seicher
Yeah.
Koilim, Bamatzia.
It's from this Gemara. Yeah.
That was they asked from this Gemara.
Oh, the Rashbam brings it down.
Was it?
Yeah. The Rashbam brings it down here.
Somebody
Yeah,
asked it. Somebody asked it, right?
The Rashbam.
Was there a Shpam?
Meaning, why did they skip over Rabbi Yochanan?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Rashbam, yeah, the fourth line down, yeah, because he didn't have Hadras Panim. So what? I don't understand the Rashbam's teretz, right? Well, he didn't have Hadras Panim. So what are we talking about here? Midas?
No, the Rashbam's quoting the Gemara Bamatzia.
I understand, but what does that mean? So what are we talking about here?
With a beard.
Right. Hajas Panim, I think Rashi and Bamatzia
I'm saying,
had a beard.
I'm saying, but we're not talking about strictly looks.
Why?
What?
Why? Are we
Yeah,
not
the
talking
Gemara
about-
obviously means something else. We're not talking about physical only.
Yeah.
Jack, you know the story about the Dibuk?
With the Chavetz Chaim?
No, earlier with the Chazim Blin.
What? Yes. So what is that? What are you saying?
He was officially Dibuk was with and somebody, and officially he was one of the people that killed Chizkiah Melech, and he was a huge tzaddik. So officially, none of the rabbis could even another rabbi dealt with him, and he said you couldn't even look at him. That's how chashuv he was that they couldn't even handle him. That's as a human being, he was on such a high madriga in terms of what he looked like, or what madriga he reached.
Right. Interesting. Yeah.
I
Okay.
also
What?
thought that Shufrei is from Shaifer. And we say by Moshe Rabbeinu when he came down from Har Sinai, Karen or Panam, Karen and a Shaifer. That's what we're talking about. There's a visible sign on the face from someone who's so kaddish.
But I mean, Hadras Panim, however you define that.
The Hadras Panim hid it a little bit. The other ones had Hadras Panim hid it a little bit. Rabbi Yochanan maybe was more because he had no Hadras Panim. So he's not part of the cheshbon.
Right. Okay, whatever it is. We could try and say as far as all we want. Okay, let's see. Hahu am Gusha. There's another story here. I don't know what's flying over here. Hahu am Gusha. There was a magician, Tavachotit Shachve, and he would dig up shachvi, people that were dead, and the Gemara leaves this out, but the Rashbam says, and he would steal their clothes. Kimota Amarasa the Rav Tuvi Bar Masna, when he got to the Ma'ara of Rav Tuvi Bar Masna, Tafse Bedikne, he held on to his beard, meaning he didn't want this guy ripping off his clothes. So he grabbed him by his beard. Also Abaya, came Abaya, Amar Libim Atusaminoch, Shavke, leave him alone. I ask you, please leave him alone. And I guess he left him alone. Now, why Abaya is defending this magician ripping people's clothing off, I don't know. He did it again the next year. Abaya came, he didn't let it until Abaya came with the scissors and cut the beard. Okay, there we go. I have no idea what the Gemara wants with this.
One second. If he cut the beard, he didn't like. What do you mean he didn't let go until he came with the scissors? He didn't let go. If he cut the beard, he didn't let go.
Who? The magician, the mace didn't let go of the magician's beard. So Abaya had to come and cut the beard. And now, so he was free. He never let go, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
No, it's a lo shafke, like he ad asi. But it wasn't. He wasn't.
He couldn't escape. The real way to type.
Right, okay.
Well, you're right. Lo shafke, he didn't. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. There was a guy who said when he was dying, Chavisa da'afra l'chadbroi, a barrel of earth to one son. Chavisa degarmi l'chadbroi, a barrel of bones to another one. Chavisa de'udra l'chadbroi, a barrel of cotton to another son. Lo have a yodi my karmalu. So they had no idea what he was saying. What kind of will was this? So also look at the Rabbano. They came in front of Rabbano. Amalu isluhu ara. So do you have land? Did he leave you land? They said yes. Isluhu chivasa. Do you have any animals? In this, yes. Isluhu bastarki. Do you have any blankets? Which Rashbam really just says any type of clothing made out of something soft. In, he said yes. Ihachi. If that's the case, hachi karma lachu. This is what he's telling you. He's telling you that earth is talking about land. The barrel of earth is land. The barrel of bones is the animals. And the barrel of cotton is talking about the clothing or the blankets. Okay. A guy heard his wife saying to the daughter, how come you're not tznius in Yisurim, meaning the apple didn't fall far from the tree. The mother was a Zaina and the daughter was a Zaina. So the mother screaming at the daughter, why are you not being snua about your pritzas? Hach itza, this woman, meaning talking in third person about herself, Asara Bani Isla, she has 10 kids, 10 boys, and only one of them is from your father. All right, so 9 mamzerim. She has 9 mamzerim and 1 legit kid. Kishachiv, when the father was dying, Amar Lahu, so I guess he heard this conversation. So then he said, Kol nichsi l'chad bra. All my belongings go to the one son that's the legit. Lo yadei lamina, but nobody knew who the legit son was. Also, the Rabbi Bana. Now, I don't know why they couldn't ask the wife. I don't know where she was. Also, look at me, maybe she was Pasaledus. I don't know. Also, look at the Rabbana. They came in front of him. Amar Lahu. This is like a Shlomo Melech story. Zilu chavute kira davuchay. Tell them, go hit the caver of the fathers till he gets up and tells meaning if you go bang on his grave, he'll tell you which one of you guys is legit. So Ozlu Kulu, and then they all went to do this. Hahu de Bray Havaloy Ozlu, but the one that was his son didn't go because it was not respectful. Right? Because Mamzerim they have chutzpah. So Amalahu, he said to him, Kulu, Nichse Dahai, all the belongings go to him. Right? Azu Achlu Kurza Be Malka. So they went and they Achlu Kurza is obviously some sort of phrase, which just means Lashon Hara, the Rashbam says. Also, Achlu Kurzu Be Malka, they ratted him out to the king. I don't know what they ratted him about, but they ratted him out. Amri, Nika, I mean, what the Gemara is going to say what they ratted him about, but it's the child is why does the government care about this? But maybe officially it was a righteous government. Amri Ika Gabra Chat B'Yudai. There's this one yid, the Kamavim Amayna Ma'anshe. who's taking money away from people, without witnesses, with nothing. So Asyu Chavshu, so they came and they put him into jail. Also Devisu, so his wife came. Amr Lahu, and she said to them, so she had to come up with some sort of plan to get him out of jail. So she decided to come up with some sort of complicated question. Amr Lahu, Avda Chad Havali. She said, I had a slave, one slave, Paskul Reisha, I cut off his head. Upashtu Lemashche. Yeah. Paskul Reisha, cut off his head. Upashtu Lemashche, and they took off his skin. Ba'achlu Besrain, they ate his basa. Kamalu Beimaya. And then they would fill it with water, meaning they basically skinned him and they used it as a jug. And then they gave everybody out to drink. And they didn't pay me for this. And they didn't rent it from me either, meaning they didn't buy it from me, they didn't pay it. So they ripped off my slave and made him into a jug, and I didn't get any payment. So they didn't know what she was saying. So Amri let's go bring this chacham, this Jewish chacham, and let's tell him. This almost sounds like Yosef, right? But I don't understand, because if they thought he was so chashuv and they knew he was chashuv, so then why they put him into jail for? Okay, I don't know. So Karu le Rabbi Bana, so they call Rabbi Bana. Amr lahu, he said to them, Zarnuka Amr lahu. She's talking to you about a Zarnuka, about a bottle, yeah. Amri, Hoyel, meaning she was just describing as a slave, she was describing that they took an animal and they stole it from her and they shechted it and they skinned it, and that's it. So Amri, Hoyel v'chachem kulei, since this person's so smart, why don't we hire him to be a judge and let him sit by the door and he'll judge for us. He saw, like all courthouses, maybe that's where this comes from, that courthouses have all sorts of psukim, not psukim, whatever phrases. So he saw that it said by the entrance, called dayan to miskari ledin loishmei dayan. Any dayan that's called to din is not called a dayan. Meaning he obviously, if he gets called to a din, that means he's not legit with his money, right? So Amar lahu elameata asa inish me'alma. If that's the case, then if somebody from work comes on Tama Beis now, umazmu ladina pasle. So if somebody just brings him to Bezdin, that means automatically he passes him. Ella kol dayan. So what it must be is kol dayan de miskari ladin. Any dayan that's called to be judged, and he loses, they take away the money from him. Legitimately, lav shmei dayan. He is not a dayan, which makes more sense, right? So kasu. He told this to the Goyim, and then the Goyim changed the phrase in front of the courthouse. Baram, they wrote Baram. Sabi de Yudai Amri, the older Jewish person says, Kol Dayan. They used plural lashon here, so even though it was Rabbi Bana, but so Baram Sabi de Yudai Amri, Kol Dayan de Miskari Ledin, any Dayan who's called to din umafkim mind of bedin, and they take away the money bedin, lav shmei dayan, he is not a dayan. Fine. Then they saw another thing. Then they saw that it was written, at the top of all death is blood. And at the top of all life is wine. Right? So meaning death, basically what it's saying is death comes from too much blood, and health comes from a lot of wine. So if that's the case, somebody falls off a roof and dies. And somebody falls off a tree and dies. Is that extra blood killed him? Somebody who's going to die. Give him wine to drink and he'll live. Probably a lot of the wine drinkers would say this, but is that what would happen? This is called Marin Anod.
It's an interesting thing, because statistically, drunk drivers who get into bad car accidents suffer less physical damage than non-drunk drivers who get into similar accidents. So the drink does protect them somewhat from death.
That's just because they're all relaxed, so they don't stiffen up.
So
Yeah,
everybody
that's what
should
I
drink
thought.
and everybody should drink and drive. That'll protect them.
No, most people drive to get from point A to point B.
I don't know. I'm saying, yeah. I mean, you're not gonna. Don't they have studies now that wine is healthy, and then there come studies that wine is not healthy?
And
Well, also then the wine is cooked, and a lot of their water was not, so it was cleaner anyway.
What?
When people were getting, there were a lot of things that people would get from the water that wasn't treated. But wine, by definition, it's heated up, so it killed a lot of things that would cause dysentery and all sorts of other infections. So sometimes the
what
wine was
wine is
cleaner than the
heated
water.
up?
There's certain kinds of wine that you cook with to create
Mavushal.
the
Yeah.
Wine mavushal, but it's not in general wine, especially back then.
Right. All right. Anyways, whatever it is, so that was that. Either way, it doesn't make sense. The Rabbanu saying, this is what should say. Beroish kol marin, at the top of any marin, any bad, meaning any sickness, not dam, it's meat, it's blood, it's too much blood. Beroish kol asvan, and at the head, at the top of asvan from it means to heal. You're going to find wine, right? So the Rashbam says that wine is, what do you call it? Prophylactic, I would say. Would that be the right word? Preventative?
Also anesthetic.
Well, I get that's for sure. Certainly for mental. Anyways, so Koswagi, this is what they wrote. Baram, Savi du Yudai Amri, the older Yidden say, Barosh kol marin ano dam, Barosh kol asvan ano chamar. Fine. Ba'asar the less chamar, tamon misvo samonin. Right? Where there's no place with no wine, so then you're gonna have to get samonin. I don't think it means today the way we touch samonin, right? But we use it as drugs. I guess it's herbs, right? Vitamins. Yeah, fine. Then along the same lines, it says, and at the entrance to Kapaitkia is anpuk, anbug, antel. Ve'ezu antel, and what is it? Right? Zeh revius shel Torah. It's the revius that's in the Torah. Those are basically different words for descriptions of revius. Okay, that ends the not understandable part of the daf. Now the next.
It's really weird. I don't know how you're supposed to take all this stuff about jugs.
So you got to look in the Ben Yoyada. I don't have a Ben Yoyada here, but there's a Ben Yoyada that goes through this whole thing.
And about this is the one who's so smart. We should make him a judge. I can't help taking that, but not taking that as seriously. It makes me think of Monty Python.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, my thing is you're never gonna get push-up shot here. So if you're never gonna get push-up shot, so then I mean I'm not chas v'shalom saying not to get shot, but where you can get it's all gonna be esoteric shot.
Yeah, I don't think these Gemaras they're not supposed to be read with a push-up shot. I think they're supposed to be. The reason why they're written this way is because they're all mashalim for things that are much higher.
Well, that some say right. So some say all these Agadat Gemaras never really happened.
No, I'm sorry. I don't mean mashal that didn't happen. I mean mashal that like Dvarim Nistarim are said in Nistar language.
Right.
Right, like higher things. I think Maral talks about that.
Well, yeah, we got the Maral and the Ben Yoyada, the two go-tos for
Marsha, obviously also.
And Marsha, yeah. Okay, right. Now out of the Agadat, at least for a daf. Hamarziv. So basically, on the side of houses, you had what we would call today leaders. I think it would be leaders and gutters, right? You have the gutter that goes usually the length of the house, and you have a leader that the water goes from the gutter down to the side of the house to the floor. So a marzev seems to be, I think, the way the taich will be a leader, meaning that's the way the water runs into the ground. So a marzev ain't like chazaka. You can't make a chazaka, meaning if you put up a marzev. Now we're talking about here with chazakas that we're talking about neighborly, which we had in the previous Mishnah, I think. Right now we're talking about different chazakas, meaning when you do something and it affects your neighbor. So if you do it and the neighbor doesn't complain, so then either immediately, depending on one shita, all the shitas have to be 3 years. But point is that if you do certain things and the neighbor doesn't say anything, so then that's it. So then it's yours. So a marzev ain't like not yours, meaning you don't have to take it down. So a marzev ain't like chazaka. Marzev doesn't have a chazaka.
So 1 second, just if I put up the leader, so now we're saying the gutter is not mine or the leader is not mine.
No, it's yours. The question is, could the neighbor make you take it down? Right? Meaning you're running your water into your neighbor's property, or it could take away. I don't know. It could be over his property line. It could be anything that's annoying your neighbor, right? So basically, the reason. So the Gemara is going to go through why, but a marziv does not have a chazaka, which, like we've been saying, when it doesn't have a chazaka, that means that nobody gets scared that it's there permanently or it's there forever. They just think a person's putting his marziv there, and then he'll move it, and maybe he'll take it away. Maybe sometimes he'll have it, sometimes he won't have it. But meaning Mamela, there's no reason that the neighbor thinks he has to put in a complaint, right? So Amarziv ain't chazaka v'yesh l'makoymei chazaka, but the place has a chazaka, which we're going to see 3 pshatim in the Gemara what this means. Hamaschila yesh lo chazaka, but a maschila that's a gutter. What did I say the first? The first was a leader, right? Where the water goes out. A gutter, you do have a chazaka. Fine. Sulam ha-mitri ain't le chazaka. A sulam ha-mitri, an Egyptian ladder, does not have a chazaka because it's small, what the Gemara is going to say. So since it's small and you put a ladder there, next to your neighbor, so you think, okay, a small ladder is meant to be moved around. But a tsuri ladder, which is very large, and when people put it there, usually it stays there forever, and the neighbor didn't say anything, so then you have a chazaka. Chaloina mitzvahs, if you put up a window, meaning you have a yard that's owned by both of them, and each one has a house, and now somebody's going to put in a window, which we'll see in the Gemara. So then if they share the yard, so why can't he put in a window? But whatever it is, he put in a window. Now he could be spying on the yard. So chalaina mitzvahs ain't la chazaka. Chalaina mitzvahs doesn't have a chazaka. Uletzuris yesh a chazaka, but a tzuris does have a chazaka. Fine. Ezi chalaina mitzvahs. What's a chalaina mitzvahs? Kol she'ein roisha shaladam yachal likanas esayich. If the window's so small, the head can't fit in it. Which is the Gemara is going to also ask, how come chalain ha-mitzvahs gets a description, but sulam ha-mitzri does not get a description? Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, in Yeshel Malbin, if it has a window frame, even if the person's head can't fit in it, that's a chazaka. Right? Now why? Because when somebody puts an actual frame, then it looks like it's going to be there permanently. So you should have complained. The neighbor should have, the shutuf or the neighbor should have complained. All right? Okay, so that's the Mishnah. Again, it's the same Yesodus, that if it's something that the neighbor expects to be moved or will be removed, then there's no chazaka because he doesn't feel the need to complain about it. If it's something that's more permanent and the neighbor didn't complain about it, then there's chazaka. He should have complained. He didn't, means he's going to tolerate it. So Zog the Gemara, my hamarziv, ain't like chazaka, v'yeshem mekayim chazaka. Right? What does it mean that the marziv has no chazaka, but its place has a chazaka? What does that mean? Either it has a chazaka or doesn't have a chazaka. Some Rabbi Yehuda Mashmuel, Hachi Ka'amar, this is what it's saying. Hamarziv ain't like chazaka. Hamarziv has no chazaka, miruach achas, from one side. V'yeshem mekayim chazaka, but its place has chazaka mishtei ruchas, which is very hard to teach this exactly how it's saying. So the marzev has no chazaka, meaning from ruach achas. Meaning he has no chazaka that he can put it on one side or on another side, meaning you can't. The neighbor can always say, the shutuf or the neighbor, whichever case it is, can say that he has to move it. You can't just leave it in one place. But but it has mishtei ruchos, but it has in it the makam of it. He could put it now. Shtei ruchos sounds like it puts it on both directions. Doesn't mean that. It means he could put it one or the other. Meaning basically the way I'm understanding it is he's allowed, the neighbor's allowed to put the leader there. He just doesn't have a right to say where. He 100% has a right to put a leader on the side of his house. Where it goes on the side of the house, that he doesn't have a right to. Okay? That's the first teretz. So Chanina Amar Hamarzev ein lo chazaka. A marzev has no chazaka. Shim haya aruch mekatzi. What it means is that let's say it's a very long, and the neighbor wants it cut down, so then he's allowed to. But he can't uproot it. Right? Meaning, so Reb Chanina it's a similar teretz. He's saying that if it's too long, the neighbor has the right to tell him to cut it down, but he can't tell him to remove it completely. That if he wants if he wants to build a house under the marzev, baina he can build it. But he has makam as chazaka. If he wants to be oiker, he cannot be oiker. So Rav Yomi Barav is a little different. He's saying that the neighbor can build it under, right? Fine. So those are the three teruts. Let's just do a little bit more. So the Gemara on Talmud Aleph now. Tanan hamaschila. The Mishnah says maschila yesh lo chazaka. So the gutter does have a chazaka. The Mando Amar that says meaning the first two terutzim. Yeah. So if it works, right? Because it just means that there's no chazaka from one side, but meaning it could be there. He just can't place it, or it could be there. He just can't. He can just the neighbor can insist that it gets cut down. But according to the mandamar that says that if he wants to build under it, he can build it. He's allowed to. My nafkale mina. Who cares, right? The owner, the neighbor of the gutter, right? What does he care? It doesn't affect him, right? Meaning by him not making chazaka, but an neighbor making chazaka has nothing to do with putting a gutter there. If you hold that you're allowed to build under it, so why should he even open his mouth? So who cares, right? So Gemara says, we're not talking about your standard gutter. We're talking about a gutter that's made out of stones. The Rashbam says, it's not nicha for me, right? That it's that you're going to ruin my gutter, because since the gutter is made out of stones, so what's going to happen if the guy starts building a house under or next to his gutter? All the vibrations are going to ruin his gutter, right? So Mamela, that's why the gutter guy can complain. You never said anything to me. I built the gutter there, so that's it. I have a chazaka, right? Yeah. Okay. We could stop there. All right. Fine. Let's say a tillim. Sounds like we knocked